So we have a lot of runoff today. It's gone down some. This is on the Tisdale Ranch again, immediately east of the proposed Campo landfill. Here we are at the lake again, which is within a quarter mile of the proposed Campo landfill. It hasn't rained since yesterday, and the water is still continuing to flow at a pretty good rate. Between January 4th and January 18th, we had between 18 and 20 inches here. There's more runoff, still going. Kind of erosion. This was not eroded at all prior to the rains. The oak trees there. That hill in the distance there is the Campo landfill site, so you can hear the water go in the background here. I just want to let you know it's here. This was one of our roads prior to the rain. Here the water just comes up out of the ground like it does a lot after heavy rains. Comes up out of the ground over here too. You see the water just coming right up out of the ground here. Then it runs on down. Here's another seep that comes up on the Tisdale Ranch. You can see it's running. And just past our fields is the Campo landfill site. The reason we're showing you these seeps is these seeps come up on these northeast, southwest fractures that intersect our property and the landfill site that James and Moore and Mid-American and everybody keeps saying, don't worry, there's no problem. There's a problem. Here's another seep going, just a little bit of water, but nevertheless there's water running. This happens every time we have heavy rains. And there again is the Campo landfill site, past the cleared field and the windmill. Here are a couple more seeps that come up on Ron Summers' property within a half a mile of the landfill. So go down this way, you can see that the water is running. Like I said before, it's been 3 days since it's rained. This area is just crisscross with fractures. Here's another seep. They're all over the place. Here's one more seep on Ron Summers' property. You can see this one's running pretty good. Just sort of goes right back out into the ground over here. And I'll pan over this way, and you can see the hill there beyond the cleared field is part of the landfill site. This is a spring on Bill Henderson's property, which comes up every time it rains. You hear the amount of water that goes through. This is from the same spring, just after it comes out the other side of the road. Mr. Henderson's property is east of the landfill. This is runoff from several springs on Bill Henderson's property, east of the proposed Campo landfill. This is the amount of water that's still coming out from Henderson's property, even though the rain stopped 3 days ago. Here's another seep that comes up alongside the road. And this is on top of a ridge. Runs on down. You can see there's the landfill site in the distance, that ridge beyond the cleared fields. I also wanted you to note that right up here by this seep there's an elderberry tree. There was quite a large trunk, but it fell down last year. But elderberry trees seem to like shallow water. And Dames and Moore has never documented any of these springs, even though we have notified them time and time again. This is a spring on Helen Willoughby's property, which is on the southeast side of the landfill. Just comes up out of the ground here. You can see it's running pretty good here. And it's been over a week since it rained. This is the water running through Helen Willoughby's property within a quarter-mile of the landfill site. This was washed out in the last rains, and the water's still going. Here's another strange thing on Helen's property. This water's running through these holes in the ground here. You can see this hole in the ground. You can see the water running in it.
Okay, I'm walking up on this other fracture that comes right off the reservation. There's a cross fracture here also. You start picking water up right here. This water ties in, comes directly off the reservation in one spot there. If you come back over on the other side, it runs right straight down to my neighbor's well, which is right down below here. There's a well within 1/8 of a mile of where I'm standing here, less than that, probably 300 or 400 yards maybe. This is one of the major fractures that they should have considered putting the monitoring well on. Notice the one she just took was not even close to this fracture. So
this is water from yet another spring on Bill Henderson's property. There's quite a bit of water flowing. This is on Bill Henderson's property too. Bill Henderson's property is on the top of a ridge, so all this water comes out on his property. And there are interlinking fractures that run throughout this area that connect all these springs we've been showing you, the landfill site, and with domestic wells. And here's a better view of that geyser that's spring fed. A lot of pressure there. This is the overflow from Bill Henderson's ponds. Goes into property belonging to Alma Miller. Remember, it hasn't rained here since January 18th. This is a seep that comes up on the Tisdale's property on those east-west fractures that intersect our property and the landfill site. There's our buildings, and just beyond the cleared field is the landfill site. This is the lake on Ron Summers' property I've showed you before, but here it is February 2nd. It hasn't rained since January 18th, and it's still overflowing at a pretty good rate. Here's another spring on the back side, which is the east side of the Tisdale's property. This is an extension of that same little spring. As it moves on down, picks up a little more water. This is where one of Bill Henderson's springs originates, on the northeast corner of his property.
this is a great place for kids.
Here in this stream bed, you can see these quartz fractures. They run northeast, southwest, back over towards the landfill site. This is a boulder right next to the stream bed I just showed you, and you can see the fracture that goes through it with the quartz. This is in a northeast, southwest direction. I wanted to show you these east-west fractures and the boulder here on the northeast side of the landfill site. They basically line up with the east-west fractures they have on some of the maps in the permit application. Right here is where water comes up out of a gopher hole. See, this could be coming from a couple hundred feet, a couple hundred yards up the way there. You just don't know. It's coming up over here too, just bubbling up. I keep telling the proponents of the Campo landfill that gopher holes act as conduits here. And there's gopher holes. We have a hand-dug well. You can look down 20 feet. Well, it's full of water now, but when it's dry, you can look down 20 feet and there's gopher holes all the way down there. The gopher hole, adding its flow to the little creek here. Still on Ron Summers' property. We're right down here next to the railroad tracks. Here's the embankment. We're still on Summers' property. There's two little creeks that come together here. There's a really good gopher hole. This one's really pumping away. Comes right down here into the creek. There's another gopher hole. There's another gopher hole. I hope you guys are getting the picture here. Gopher hole's a real problem with moving water out in this area. There's another gopher hole, just about 10 feet over from the last one. See, there's nothing up here on top. This thing's pumping out gallons and gallons a minute. Runs right into the creek. There's another gopher hole. I've lost count. Are you keeping track? A lot of water moves through these things. Another gopher hole. Right in the creek bank here. A lot of water. Here's another one. Oh, I'm standing in this creek bed. My dirt's washing out from under my feet. This water's moving pretty fast here. Oh, where this is a well on the Tisdale property. You can see the well casing's about a foot above ground, and you can see where the water is. This is how saturated our ground is here. I think when the county hydrologist did static water levels back in 1990, this was at, I think this was approximately 30 feet, I'm not sure. But regardless, there's water coming out of the ground here now, and this is what we keep telling the proponents. The water levels fluctuate here. When it rains, the water is at ground level. And here it is. This is the same pond on Ron Summers' place I have showed you numerous times before. But here it is, April 1st. We haven't only had 1 inch and 2/10 in the last month, and the water levels are still high. The lake is still overflowing. It's important to understand that this lake is recharged from springs which come up on the ridge on Bill Henderson's property. Now that ridge is at a higher elevation than the landfill site, and this hogwash, proponents are trying to tell you that there's no water on the high ridges. It's just that, it's hogwash. This is the same well we showed you about a month ago. The water level has dropped probably about 1/2 inch. It's not overflowing anymore, but as you can see, it's still above ground. The rust you see in the water is from the casing.